Hello everyone, thank you so much for clicking on today's video and welcome back to my channel. The family in this story has an insane amount of drama happening. Essentially what happened was that OP's father had an affair with someone else while married to OP's mother. They did eventually end up divorcing, and OP's mother and father haven't really spent extended periods of time together, and they had a really messy divorce. Along with that, there's some extended family drama as well, so OP reaches out to Reddit to ask for advice on how to handle it. And I think that she really got some good advice, so stay tuned for that. I do hope that you enjoy this story. If you do, please give it a thumbs up. Anyhow, onto the story. I'm a 24-year-old female, and my mum, who's a 54-year-old female, has not seen my dad, who's a 52-year-old male, since their messy divorce, nor met the other woman, who's now his new wife, a 42-year-old female. I'm looking for advice on how to navigate my upcoming graduation, which they are all attending, and where they will meet my boyfriend, who's a 23-year-old male, and his parents, a 54-year-old female and a 60-year-old male, for the very first time. I highly doubt that my family uses Reddit, so I won't bother using a throwaway. It was hard to get a title for this, as this isn't even really just about my parents, but about all the conflicting connections that will be happening at my graduation coming up in 3 weeks. Hence the length of the post. I'm looking for any advice on how tensions might bubble, how I can diffuse those situations, and anything I can do to prevent it. Congrats if you make it all the way through. To give you an idea of the setup for this situation, I live in a city several hours away from any of my family members, so there will be some people staying at my house and some people staying at hotels in the area. My dad and his new wife, my paternal grandma, my cousin and aunt on my dad's side, my mom, my 2 siblings, my boyfriend's parents, 2 of my parents' friends from university. One was my dad's friend and one was my mom's friend, and they got married to each other. And some of my close friends will all be attending various events at my house, at a restaurant, and at my university. The actual ceremony will be my boyfriend, mom, and dad sitting with each other while I cross the stage. I have a very large extended family on my dad's side, so there might even be more people than that. I live in a tourist town, so there's lots for people to do when they're not with me. Firstly, there's my mom and my dad's relationship with my dad's family. My parents met in Ontario, where my mom is from, and shortly after I was born, they moved to British Columbia, where my dad is from. My dad started cheating on my mom with Heather, who's actually from Ontario. Heather's kids were actually born in the same hospital as me. Her husband moved them back out there when he found out about the affair. My dad just started flying out to Ontario to cheat. Then Heather officially got divorced, my parents officially got divorced, and he moved out there permanently. So basically, now my mom is out here in British Columbia with all my dad's family, and my dad is out there with all of her family. Everyone pretty much chose my mom's side in the divorce, but since my dad didn't live in the province anymore and she had custody of us, it was an easy choice. Holidays are always spent with my mom, siblings, and dad's side of the family. My nana still refers to my mom as her daughter-in-law. We have a family reunion every year, and sometimes my mom goes and sometimes my dad goes, but never at the same time. Their university friends that are now married to each other have seen both of them, but also at separate times. So I'm not sure how anyone will act when everyone is all together. On the one hand, everyone generally supports my mom, but on the other hand, people rarely get to see my dad since he only flies out every few years. Cue thinking emoji. Then there's my parents' relationship with each other. Suffice to say, it's not good. They literally only spoke over email after their separation, because my dad would just scream at her over the phone. He withheld child support from her. He has always loudly complained about having to pay her alimony, and now that we are grown, they still don't speak. It was not clean, and they still regularly complain about each other to me and my siblings. My relationship with Dad and Heather is also not the best. I actually spent the last 2 years of high school living with my dad in Ontario. Without getting into too much detail, they both are horrible parents. I moved back to British Columbia when I turned 18 and didn't speak to either of them for years. My family pressured me very heavily to reconnect with him, which I did do when I was ready. Heather never spoke to me again, which I was fine with. I sent them both Christmas presents, and I'm polite when I see her, and vice versa, but we don't talk. Over the past few years though, I've been rebuilding a relationship with my dad, so it's important to me that he can come to this. I've set firm boundaries with him, try not to expect a lot, and it feels much better for me than when we weren't talking at all. Family ties are hugely important in my familial culture, so I'm not considering uninviting him. There's also how my dad and Heather act. They're both heavy drinkers, which fuels a lot of their inappropriate behavior. They want to be the center of attention. They are inappropriate with each other. They bring up uncomfortable topics, and they don't mind causing drama. My dad often gets really aggressive if Heather isn't included enough in something, and he literally never does anything without her. If she wasn't invited to my wedding, he wouldn't attend, so she's sort of a necessary evil. She's significantly younger than him and dresses even younger than that, which I feel might be threatening to my mom. She's definitely going to be dressed to the nines and probably wearing something inappropriate for her graduation. At this point, the plane tickets have already been purchased, so while I would rather she wasn't there at all, I can't really uninvite her now. Finally, there's my boyfriend's parents. To add a final layer of complexity, my boyfriend's family is also going to be coming down and meeting my family for the first time. I could make an entire post just about my worries about my families meeting each other. My boyfriend's dad really needs to be the center of attention as well, and gets very emotional when things don't go his way. He's one of those types where he's always sick and always has to one-up you about the hardships of his life. My family is the opposite. If you try to say anything about being sick or having bad luck, you typically get viciously made fun of. All in good sport though, for feeling sorry for yourself and not being grateful for what you have. While at his own house, his family caters to his every whim. If he gets angry because the eggs aren't cooked the way that he likes, everyone becomes silent. In my family, if you insult a woman's cooking, she'll probably tell you to go to hell. They're also very high-class rich people, whereas my family is a bunch of poor rednecks. So pretty much I'm starting to feel like I've got the perfect storm brewing here, and that there's definitely going to be some drama, one way or another. I have no idea how I'm going to handle it yet. Right now, I'm trying to do things like invite a lot of neutral third parties like my friends, plan a killer outfit for my mom to wear when she meets Heather, and plan stuff for us to do that everyone will enjoy and will be occupied with. I had tried to get my mom to meet my boyfriend's parents before next month so that she wouldn't have to navigate 2 uncomfortable situations at once, but it didn't materialize in time. Somebody then made a comment that OP really resonated with, and she decided to follow that advice for her graduation. The comment is by u/punful, and they say, "Float through it. This is your event, yes, but that means everybody should be tiptoeing around you, not the other way around. Drama? Leave me out of it, it's my graduation. You are a bubble floating through the breeze. You are completely unaware of any undertones or subtext or sarcasm or snottiness. You are not available for venting. You are not the mediator." My alcoholic father spent my wedding reception talking to my preacher father-in-law and telling him every drunken bar story he could think of. My mother bought the man that she cheated on my dad with. My sister-in-law had a meltdown with her own mother. My half-sister spent most of the evening flirting with my half-brother from the other side, and my mother-in-law was aghast. I spent the evening locking eyes with my husband and sharing, look at this insanity, looks in our bubble. Get your boyfriend on the same page and cling to each other like a life raft. OP replied, this is the most helpful comment to me. I've been really stressing out about how I'm going to manage everyone, but you're right. It's not my job. My grandma is the matriarch of our family and the social glue which holds us all together. She's always up to date on everyone's drama and is always trying to make sure everyone is reconciled and participating in family events. I'm definitely being groomed to be the next in line for that position, so I feel like I've absorbed the idea that it's my responsibility. I've been told implicitly that other people's emotions and relationships are my responsibility. Because I look up to my Nana and want to be like her, I haven't really questioned that role. On the other hand, I really do care about having my family all together way more than anyone else in the family does. But on the other hand, this is supposed to be an event celebrating me, so I really do need to take a step back and let them figure it out. My boyfriend doesn't quote-unquote take charge of the situation very well and is a pretty anxious person, so I've been very worried that I'll be all on my own if something blows up. But it's not his responsibility either. And he is really, really supportive of me personally, and he would definitely help me float through in a bubble. So I will bring this up with him. Thank you so much for the kind words of encouragement. I feel very relieved. I know a lot of people wanted me to call out my dad or uninvite him entirely, or basically somehow see him get what he quote-unquote deserves. Fair enough. I felt the same way for the most of my life. But I can tell you from experience that taking the scorched earth route comes with a whole lot of negatives for me and my family, including my mom. Since my mom's family is basically also my dad's family, trust me, it's so much nicer for all of us when we just don't rock that boat. And frankly, their marriage and their parenting relationship is really not my business and definitely not my responsibility. The advice I appreciated the most and ultimately ended up following was from you/Punful, whose comment on OP's response I highlighted previously. They said something along the lines of, "You're a bubble, floating through the breeze. You are completely unaware of any undertones or subtext or sarcasm or snottiness. You are not available for venting. You are not the mediator." It was great advice, and I told it to my mom and advised that we follow it. While Punful recommended that me and my boyfriend be the inner bubble, it ended up actually being me and my mom. Nothing went exactly to plan, of course. For one, it turned out that my graduation tickets were indeed assigned seating, so my mom, dad, and boyfriend were indeed forced to sit right next to each other, right in the front so that I could watch it happen from stage. My boyfriend's dad was unexpectedly very sick and had to cancel on dinner, so we ended up having to schedule an additional event with less friends and even more mom-dad FaceTime. At first, my parents asked which one of them should be there, and I said to both of them, "You are both invited, and I would love it if you both could come. I trust that you guys will be able to figure it out." My dad strongly hinted that he might not be able to come to dinner after all. I'm in a bubble. I'm in a bubble. I'm in a bubble. I'm in a bubble. As expected, my dad and his wife were somewhat obnoxious. They rented an insanely expensive car. He talked a lot about how successful they are and how much money they make and spend. He wore an expensive patterned suit when I told him to dress casually. They drank a fair bit. He paid for everything when my mom offered, just to make a point of it. And he generally tried to steal the show when possible. They got me a really gaudy graduation present that was very expensive, but not really in my taste. He made a bunch of off-color comments, etc., etc. However, that said, everyone did show up to everything and nothing terrible happened. Everyone followed their directions to distract my dad and support my mom. My boyfriend's parents spent all of their time engaging my mom. despite my dad's best efforts to pull them away. As expected, my boyfriend's dad spent basically the entire time telling sob stories, but my family dutifully smiled and nodded and only minorly made fun of him. My boyfriend's dad was busy having fun putting two and two together insofar as where my personality comes from, i.e., I'm Nana 2.0. My Nana kept repeating to everyone that we were 100% team mom. My friends kept everyone occupied so that I could relax. My mom handled everything like a champ. Eventually, she even walked right up to Heather super confidently and introduced herself saying, "Hello, it's so awkward to finally meet you." Heather practically had word vomit after that, which was pretty satisfying to watch. My mom acted and felt very comfortable. She took pictures of me and my dad and operated the camera when it was my dad and Heather. She said she honestly felt fine. She found my dad annoying AF, but she honestly always has. I was really proud of her anyways, and I told her so. Interestingly, it was my dad that was clearly uncomfortable. He always talked louder when she came close so that she could hear himself aggrandizing. Several times I caught him staring at her from across the table and room. Sometimes he would say something and me and my mom would laugh and roll our eyes at each other. My dad tried to make some sort of sexist joke to my boyfriend about the nursing class, and he pretended not to understand. He seemed to slowly absorb that he was not the star of the show, and to his credit, he never made a scene about it. And as for me, as soon as the first meeting was out of the way and nothing terrible had happened, I immediately felt more relaxed. Stuff went wrong, but I literally kept saying to myself, I'm in a bubble, and it would pass. I almost fell down the stairs in my long gown and high heels while walking towards the stage, and I definitely accidentally flashed the entire audience with photo evidence, but I was pretty much riding the high and it didn't seem to matter. So yeah, it went well. Good times all around. The last of my family just left yesterday afternoon and I'm having a good time in the bathtub, enjoying sweet silence and being officially graduated. Thank you, everyone. So guys, what did you think? Honestly, the real MVP here is OP's mom. Like, she sounded amazing. Being able to just navigate that whole situation with so much confidence just to support her daughter was absolutely amazing. So based on the outcome, there could have been two internal battles happening. One, she was really totally over it and she was just acting normal, and I'm so happy for her in that case. Two, she really wasn't in an uncomfortable, anxiety-inducing situation, but then she sucked it all up just so that she could support her daughter. And if that's the case, then that just makes me want to admire her even more. Honestly, that's mom goals for you. I do hope that you enjoyed the story. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, and please subscribe if you'd like to hear more stories from Reddit with updates.